Let's begin what's trending with the good news that former President Goodluck Jonathan is safe and has arrived in Nigeria after departing Guinea Bissau in the wake of the military takeover in the country that left him stranded on Wednesday. Jonathan departed on a special flight alongside members of his delegation. He was one of the 36 high-profile observers on the joint mission of the African Union, ECOWAS, and the West African Elders Forum to monitor the presidential election. Well, here's the movement. His plane touched down in Abuja. Well, former President Jonathan is finally safe and out of Guinea-Bissau, but this episode highlights the dangers facing election observers in West Africa's increasingly unstable democratic landscape. I'll take some reactions. Femi, before I come to you, Bronze wrote, "Good to have him back on home soil, but the fact that a whole former president was temporarily trapped during yet another West African coup just shows how unstable the region has quietly become. Safe return is good, but the bigger question is, when will ECOWAS stop reacting and finally start preventing these crises?" Oko wrote on X, "Goodluck Jonathan has now added surviving a military coup evacuation to his CV. Man has dodged Boko Haram bombs, 2015 election loss, Guinea-Bissau coup. At this point, the good luck in his name is not propaganda. It's a verified spiritual gift. Welcome home, sir. The luck is still working overtime." I particularly loved that tweet. Yesterday I had another tweet that said good luck, and now you know his luck is really working overtime. He came back home safe and sound. But you know, like I highlighted, the bigger question about the West African coup. We have seen in already 5 different West African nations, this coup is becoming increasingly disturbing.
Absolutely. So first things first, as we've already established, we are very happy to see our former president returned in one piece. He did look very joyful and happy and relieved to be home in that video, and I know a lot of us were anticipating perhaps hearing from him directly, but while we wait for that to happen, we are definitely happy to see that he has been returned. But I do think that this experience does uncover greater questions. What is he now going to do with this experience? It would be interesting if he does use his now platform and this experience perhaps to speak to the federal government, speak to the African Union, speak to ECOWAS. Again, furthering the point in the first tweet about what you're going to do to be more proactive rather than reactive. He has a very unique position in the fact that he went there for one thing, to observe democracy, to champion democracy, and he was met with the direct opposite of it. So it can't just be a conversation that ends with his safe return. While we are very happy and we do understand this is another example about why it is a positive thing to name your children well, because they continue to embody what their name means. Yes. But I would love to see this go further once he does return here to Nigeria, perhaps to speak to the president, to speak to the federal government, and just talk to them about what we can really do, because in as much as we can say that this is a distant issue, that this is something that affects other countries over there, this is still our backyard, this is still our region. And while we do not want any type of military coup to be attacking Nigeria's democracy, we can't act as though this is a distant issue. It's getting closer and closer, this type of political insecurity. Yeah. And he has to put a stop to it. It has to end.
Absolutely. Now we are speaking about even insecurity in Nigeria. I mean, now we are seeing military taking over in West African nations. Let's come back home here. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, on Thursday announced that 11,566 policemen have officially been removed from their assignments working with VIPs. Egbetokun stated this while speaking with the press in Abuja. At a meeting with senior police commanders, he debunked rumors circulating online that 120,000 policemen are attached to private individuals in Nigeria, calling it a blatant lie. Let's take a look.
Yes, we have already withdrawn 11,566 personnel. We have given directives for that. I have seen some things posted on the social media, misleading. People are quoting figures. I don't know where they got their figures, where they said that 120,000 policemen are attached to private individuals in Nigeria. These are lies. Not true. I don't know where they got their figure from. And that's the figure that's been brandished everywhere. That 120,000 policemen. How many are we in Nigerian police that would attach 120,000 to private individuals?
In the same vein, the founder of Kingsway International Christian Center, Matthew Ashimolowo, is calling on the federal government to have young people from the National Youth Service Corps trained to fight against insecurity and crime. The pastor made the comments while speaking on live television on Thursday, comparing NYSC to Israel's mandatory service system, saying that their army is comprised of mostly 18 to 22-year-olds. Have you ever heard this? Well, this is, a controversial proposal. President Tinubu had earlier approved the use of NYSC camps at temporary training grounds for emergency police recruitment. But, this pastor is going further, essentially calling for the militarization of National Youth Service Corps. Now, the question is, should Nigeria turn its one-year civic service program into military training, or would this put unarmed young graduates in harm's way while, serving their country? In that same interview, the pastor also called on the public to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying, we have a leadership who wants to make things work. Vimbai, NYSC, I'm sure you haven't, experienced that in Nigeria, but it's a one-year civic program. And now, I don't think that it is quite unique, because I believe I saw a story in France
yes,
as well,
yes,
where, Emmanuel Macron is also trying to have voluntary. But now, this man is proposing NYSC, militarizing it as well.
Where do we begin? I think we begin by making the point that NYSC was created to promote pan-Nigerianism.
Yes.
It was an initiative that was to get Nigerians to become more broader in their outlook of the nation. So if I am from Cross River State, they'll post me to Zamfara. If I am from Kebbi State, they'll post me to Delta State, so that we can understand our country better and have better sensitivities of our fellow countrymen. So I think it's important to note that, and that is what it was created for. To now add a military dimension to that is concerning for a number of reasons. Number one, NYSC covers a broad number of industries. People are stationed with different kinds of companies and organizations and so forth, and it contributes to the churning out of professionals into our economy. We have NYSC, some NYSC, what are they? Coppers. Yes, the word that escaped my mind. We have coppers here at Arise. You have coppers all around, and we have to remember that yes, while there is a state of emergency on security, the economy still needs to function. We still have to remember that there's tomorrow, and we need to continue to develop talent. We need to continue to uphold our economy so that there can be a tomorrow to fight for. Now, the other thing about some of these youth services, we also had it in Zimbabwe at some point. They were called green bombers. Horrible, because they were used for election violence. And this is the issue. Once you have young people who are relatively naive, starting out in life, it's also easy for these movements or these initiatives to get hijacked for the wrong reasons. Whereas these are young people with potential who should be pursuing their careers, pursuing their dreams. We should be investing in them to do better and to be better. But in essence, you end up with a poorly trained extra force that's not really contributing to the end of insurgency. Let's take those resources. Let's train those, because those 11,000 plus police officers are going to need to be retrained. As Dr. Abati will say, they've been carrying Madame's handbag for a while. So they're going to need to be retrained. Let's look at police welfare as a whole. Agreed. Policemen are still protesting over their pensions. What about soldiers? What happens to them while they're in service and even after they leave service? So those resources that you would want to use to go and train coppers can be very well used very diligently within the security, the armed forces itself, to bolster them, treat them well, give them great welfare. Let's let young people dream about a greater Nigeria and a greater tomorrow. Let's not force people to do that.
I'll definitely be breathing a sigh of relief after hearing you. No. Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo said they should get ready to go for.
And Gen Z are here for vibes. Allow them to just do their vibes in peace.
And some of the stories that we've even heard from, the NYSC, some of them are quite heartbreaking when we hear the kidnapping. These people have their lives cut out for them. They have their careers ahead of them. I don't think that they want to be involved in these sort of things. Except, of course, it is voluntary.
Yes, unless they choose. If it's your passion to go into to armed forces, absolutely. All right. It's not everybody's dream.
Well said. Ladies, well said. Well, still on insecurity in Niger State, the governor, Umar Bago, announced in a recent BBC interview that 11 students out of over 300 kidnapped from St. Mary's Catholic School have been rescued, claiming that the number of students reportedly kidnapped is exaggerated. The governor also claimed that kidnapping is being used to blackmail the country to show that Christians are being maligned. Let's take a look.
A lot of people who even attend the school, who are even students in that school or pupils, are probably not just Christians. It's a mixture. A lot of devil advocacy would say people are trying to take advantage of that situation, to try to blackmail the country. And this is what I feel. Like this is like an attempt to blackmail or to bring crisis within this country, trying to portray that Christians are maligned or are being treated otherwise. But it's not so. There was an attack and there was scare. A lot of children went into the forest. The school said to me in writing, missing, not abducted. number of missing students. So they are not certain whether these entire students are with the bandits, or are they in the bush. We have opened a register there and we are counting. We have started rescuing some of their children. Some of them have been reunited.
Are you categorically saying that students have been rescued?
Yes.
Because the school told us that students escaped.
In a farm settlement, we rescued 11 people. So outside the last 51 that were declared, additional 11 have been confirmed rescued, and the operation is still going on.
Adefemi, the governor is saying that these children were rescued. Well, this is controversial. The governor is essentially saying that, a kidnapping crisis is being exaggerated for obvious political purposes, because the parents are still desperately waiting for over 250 children to return home. As of now, it is unclear when, boarding schools in Niger State will reopen after the governor ordered their closure last week. But the real question is, will parents trust the state to protect their children after this massive security failure? And hearing from the governor saying that it's being exaggerated, what is really happening here? These students, we have reports from CAN detailing the students that were taken, and then we're hearing now the governor saying that the number is exaggerated.
So not only, you could use the word controversial there, not only are his comments controversial, they are disappointing because they're taking away from the issue at hand. And it is not befitting of a governor who has the responsibility to not only be the mouthpiece of his state, but to protect his citizens, to do well and actually speak honestly and openly. Firstly, a huge shout out to the reporter in question who did that interview at the BBC, Medina Mashano, I believe her name is, a fantastic journalist. And she did also put that pressure back onto the governor to ask him about these questions, to ask him these questions about the number of pupils. I think that he is trying to distract away from the seriousness and the gravity of this issue by wasting time on numbers and saying that this is being exaggerated, saying that these kidnapping victims were rescued instead of escaped. That is really, I was going to say that that's almost not the issue, but it is, right? Because if we're saying that there is a lapse in security and these governors or these governments want state policing, then that is one thing, but you can't deny that there's an issue you can't deny that there's an issue in the first place. You didn't rescue these students. They escaped. That was the agreed line. And saying that you have rescued them is almost, I think, counterproductive to your call for state policing, because then are you saying that you don't need to have more apparatus under your own wing? I'm disappointed in the governor, with respect, because I know that he is not someone who wants this to be continuing to his people, but I think he has to be honest and understand that he bears a huge responsibility. And it was just yesterday and earlier this week we were talking about the parents who have died waiting for their children to come back home. A man that died, I mean, we don't know what the official cause of death is, but it could literally be heartbreak. A father and a mother died, and their children, we don't know if they've been released or if their children were the ones who were released, but this is too serious for you to be talking about peripheral issues. It's wrong. It's wrong.
I just want to chime in very quickly. Here on Arise, we love Farmer Bago. We love Governor Farmer.
We actually do. And he's been very good with, this sort of collaboration with Muslims and Christians, even going to church and singing in church.
But this time he fell our hand. This time he fell our hand. I have several things to say. The first is that we keep talking in proverbs around, there are people who are doing this. Senator Ted Cruz of the US said he was going to release a list. I think it's now time for Nigerian officials, if they know something, they should start naming people. So if he feels somebody is playing politics with this issue, he should tell us, such and such a person is using this issue to play politics with it. Let's handle it that way. And let's then submit the evidence for it, and let's know what we're dealing with if he says that he has credible information that leads to that. Because what we know and the evidence that we have says otherwise. The evidence that we have is that there are kidnappings going on, there are abductions going on, there's insecurity, there are killings as well going on. So if he's saying that he may have insight into the conspiracy around it, like we said, there's an emergency meeting for the northern governors happening tomorrow. They should release a name and say, we are not part of it, but we know the people around us who are part of it. That's number one. Number two, the National Assembly, both the Senate, House of Reps, and even the state houses of assembly, I need them to now start asking questions about security votes. Because all of these governors have security votes. They have budgets allocated for security. So if in Niger State, for example, he's saying somebody is using insecurity to play politics, why has he not used his security votes to secure his state so that people cannot play politics with insecurity in his state? Those are my remarks.
Well said, Bimbai, well said. Well, in the meantime, the Catholic Diocese of Nsukka has issued a disclaimer correcting a report by Zagazola Makama about the deaths of 2 priests, clarifying that the circumstances and the timing were inaccurately presented. In a statement signed by Father Emmanuel Asadu, Director of Communications, the diocese clarified that Father John Igwebweze had been suffering from illness since June 2012 and peacefully died on Sunday, September 21st, at Bishop Shanahan Hospital due to health complications arising from his long-standing condition. Father Matthew Eya, on the other hand, was tragically shot on Friday, September 19th, 2025, by yet to be identified individuals on his way back to his parish after a pastoral assignment. The diocese stated that security personnel are investigating Father Eya's death, and no individual or group has claimed responsibility. Well, on Wednesday, Zagazola Makama reported that their deaths were linked to IPOB and ESN attacks. Now, the diocese is stating that one priest died from natural causes after 13 years of illness, while the other was killed by unknown gunmen still under investigation. Although security agencies claim that the ESN group claimed responsibility for the crime. We took the story yesterday and we highlighted the report from Zagazola Makama, which is, an analyst group in the Lake Chad region that have been, doing very well with their reporting, especially on terrorism, kidnapping. They, share a lot of videos. They actually go into the forest to, give us these detailed reports. Now we're hearing from the Nsukka Diocese, and, we also got information from the security forces saying that, ESN had claimed responsibility for the death. But we're yet to see. We'll continue to follow up on the story to see really where the story lies. Well, in another development, Apostle Michael Olowokiri, in a post on X, raised alarm about the arrest of evangelist Daniel Ukpo, the pastor who posted a video about a Nasarawa church crusade that was allegedly stormed by herdsmen on Monday. However, in a twist of events, Evangelist Ukpo, in a new video, claimed that he was never arrested, nor did herdsmen ever invade his crusade. Apostle Olowokiri had claimed that Evangelist Ukpo was arrested by the Nigerian police force after releasing the video detailing the incident, and berated the federal government for allowing terrorists to openly post videos on social media while facing no repercussions. Let's take a look.
I have just been rightly informed that Evangelist Daniel Ukpo have been arrested by the Nigerian police force because of the video he posted about the incident that happened in the community in Nasarawa State. In Nasarawa State, where he was holding a crusade, where he was part of a team in a crusade, and then the Fulani herdsmen attacked that community. I've watched that video, I saw that video, and that video was real. It was legit. There was no photoshopping, there was no any kind of AI mixture. It was real. The situation was real. And the man of God only reported what was happening at that time. And because of this, the Nigerian police have arrested him. You see, we have become a useless society. This is what the Nigerian state has become. The bandits, terrorists, every day are on TikTok. They're on TikTok doing videos. They're on TikTok sharing money, doing giveaway. They're TikTok giving updates on their location, doing things as though they're free. These are people that are causing mayhem, that are causing destruction of lives and properties every single day, causing pain to family. But not one have you gone to arrest. You have not seen those ones. You cannot be watching terrorists and bandits and criminals, people that are causing problems to Nigerians every single day, having a few days. The makers, they are on TikTok doing everything on social media. Not one of them have you arrested. But a man of God only gave an update on a situation where Fulani jihadists, Fulani terrorists attack the community, and the man showed the video, and you are quick to go and arrest him. We will not tolerate this. I call on every man of God, Inspector General of Police, we demand the release of Evangelist Ukpo.
Well, the Nasarawa State Police Command, in a post on X, stated that no herdsmen attack occurred anywhere in Nasarawa State, and that the published reports, including the video in circulation, do not reflect the true situation in Abuja community. Olowokiri stated on X that Evangelist Ukpo's brother had reached out to him on Facebook asking him to delete the video, claiming that Ukpo was detained, but he declined. Olowokiri went further to suggest that Ukpo was being manipulated and coerced into making the video, denying the incident. However, in a separate post from an X account called Rural Evangelist, Daniel Ukpo's wife, Arisetv Ukpo, reportedly confirmed that her husband had been detained. Well, this is deeply confusing. Now, the question is, what actually happened? Is Ukpo being forced to recant?